I wanted to say thank you so much for your guys' comments on the last video. I came away from reading all those comments. I came away from reading all those comments just feeling very supported. And something after reading the comments, I think I hadn't realized that I think self-doubt was really just creeping into the whole thing. And I think a big part of wanting feedback is feeling like stuff that I was saying didn't have an impact. Like, I think, honestly, even I could say the same thing over and over again if I felt that it was having an impact. And I think I just realized after reading some of the comments and some of, like, the nice, encouraging things that you guys were saying that I think that I stopped believing in myself. And so I'm really grateful for all the support. And so I think a sentiment that people expressed a lot was that I'm generally in a self-improvement niche. That's what, like, the self-help of personality, or like the self-help of productivity, or like just finding a fulfilling life, I think is generally what the niche is. And it's kind of like an umbrella. And I felt like a lot of people were saying, like, you don't need to box yourself in, like, you don't need to go so narrow. And it's something that I've resisted for a long time, having a broad niche. And I was just thinking about that. I was like, you know what? Some people like the vlogs. Some people like the planning videos. Some people like the personality stuff. Some people like the goal setting. And I generally like all of it. So it's like, why don't I just do a little bit of all of it? So I felt like you guys had really good ideas. Another sentiment that you guys, I feel like, came up a lot was, you know, like, we could tell you what you want, but, like, what do you want to do? And I think for a while, I just stopped kind of thinking about what do I want to do on YouTube. And I was just like, well, I just want to be successful on YouTube. So what works? And I'm just going to, whatever it takes to make it work, then that's what I'll do. And I'm starting to feel like I would rather go slower in the right direction than faster and end up at a dead end. Because I have moments where I think, like, oh, I really want to vlog. And then I look at the views and I'm like, oh, the vlogs don't really get any views. People don't want that as much. And it's like, well, I need to sprinkle in things. You know what I mean? I think the variety is the spice of life. And it's okay that everything isn't for everyone. Maybe I'll show you. I've been trying to learn a few dances. So basically, with line dancing, each dance has its own choreography. In the last month, oh, Muffin. He just brought me his feather to play fetch. He just brought this to me. Okay. So I've learned in the last month, like 40 different choreographies. Most of them are intermediate level. Some, there's a couple advanced, some are beginner, but it's kind of like a lot of choreography, but it's really fun. Oh, Muffin, you're so cute. Maybe you can see him in the mirror behind me. Maybe like this. Oh, you're so cute. I wrote up an outline to this whole video. I don't know if I'll post it, but it was just about hobbies, just because I've been so into line dancing. And there is a lot of interesting stuff in there, but one of the things that I found really interesting is the contrast effect, which is this tendency in people to overly exaggerate contrasting traits between things and to kind of downplay the comparisons of things they have in common. So for example, the biggest like notable instance of this is with children. So they had parents identify which traits their children had. So you say you've got like a couple kids, say, okay, is this one more introverted or extroverted? Is this one more outgoing or shy? Is this one more creative or analytical? Da, 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 da. And they had then researchers do the same questionnaire after spending some like time with the kids or whatever, and they kind of rated what they perceived to be the kids' traits. And the parents just would really contrast their children. This one's really creative. This one's really analytical. This one's really quiet. This one's really loud. As they would describe their kids like they're as different as night and day. And I was thinking about how it, in various ways, that's one of the ways, like we just create kind of like false identities for ourselves. Like I just think I kind of always saw myself as like, I'm not athletic, I'm quiet, I'm a math nerd or whatever. Just, I don't know, over time, just getting these different adjectives for myself that just like, it just felt like, eventually I got to the point where it felt like the box was just getting too small. It's like, am I really only like an analytical, quiet person? Is that really, can I get out of that a little bit more? Which I think that if you're, for the people who came from the personality content, like I just think it's that fourth function that just adds more. It's like, oh, you're also this. Like you haven't been doing this thing the whole time, but like you're also this. And I was just thinking about how, like, I always described myself as non-athletic, and then I get around other people and they're like, you're pretty athletic. And then I'm like, oh, am I? Like, I just have, like, for so long had this identity, like, oh, I'm not really an athletic person. But then we get in playing volleyball, and then I do pretty good at volleyball. And then I do really well at dancing. And I've just started to wanting to expand out of this box. I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, let's just get out of this thing. And it's true that I feel like we're born with kind of innate talents. Like, I think I'm not as innately gifted at athleticism as a lot of people are, but it doesn't mean that I shouldn't use my body. Like, just because I'm like not in the top 1% doesn't mean that I'm terrible. Doesn't mean I'm at the 0 percentile. Even if I was at the very bottom of the list, like, I should still use my body. I still should connect with that part of myself. So I'm trying to get, like, this more just holistic. It's something that I think that sports do really well is they connect you to this, like, bodily sense of power that you have. And I think none of the interests that I've really had up until this point really have connected me to this sense of, like, power. Like, I'm a powerful individual. And even, like, I've tried to get into other things like songwriting or even singing. Like, right now I've been practicing like 30 minutes a day with singing, trying to get to the point where I can belt, because I'm trying to get to the point where there's this, like, power is fully expressed. And I just find it interesting because when I was a math teacher, I used to, like, rail against this all the time. I would constantly have parents say, like, oh, well, once my kids got to middle school, I just couldn't help them because I'm not a math person. And just for some reason, that phrase, I'm not a math person, like, just would really, like, grind at me. Or I would even have parents say, they're like, oh, of course my son's good at math, but, you know, my daughter, of course, she's a girl, she's not good at math. And, like, people, I was just so surprised at just how directly people would say this stuff. And I would always rail against it in that regard. And so I just kind of accepted, like, okay, well, I'm a math person. We should all be math people or whatever. But I didn't ever really transfer it to myself as well. Like, I feel like I've constantly said things like, I'm not really a funny person. I'm not really an athletic person. I was just thinking, that stuff is true as long as you want it to be true. I had this idea a while back. I've never executed it, but I thought if you had a really solid group of friends, it would be this great idea if you all had a talent show and you did the thing that you feel like would be most embarrassing to do at a talent show. Just as a way of expanding yourself. For me, the thing that I would perceive to be the most embarrassing is a stand-up comedy skit. It's like, that would be so embarrassing. If you notice, I've hardly joked on the channel. I actually joke a lot in real life, but there is something that is one of the most vulnerable things to me, is, like, putting humor out there for some reason. I don't know what that's about. But I said a while back, maybe like a year ago, like that whole metaphor of, like, the crab shells, like the crab needs to get out of this shell and then they got to go over to the next shell, and for a while it'll be too big. And I feel like what's happening is you can do that and go over to the bigger shell, and if you do not do it, you will be evicted at some point. It's not like whether or not you leave the shell that's too small for you. You will leave the shell that's too small for you. It's just a matter of if it is with your will or against your will. Because I feel like right now what's happening is I'm just kind of, like, being evicted from this smaller shell. It's like, okay, we've been, like, pushing you out of the nest for a while and you need to get out now. So I want to expand in more directions. The way I'm feeling at the moment is I want to do some vlogs and I want to do planning videos on a semi-regular basis. I think that'll be nice. That'll just be, like, an easy thing. I can always be like, we're weekly planning together, we're monthly planning together. That's something that for a long time I've wanted to get that going. I'm not sure. The routines in me are not the best, but I would like to get that going because that would be an easy thing to do. So I'd like to do some vlogs. I'd like to do some weekly planning things. Some of those may or may not be lives or something. I just loved all the comments. I was just so happy. I was just like, this just feels like a community. I feel like I can see the impact. I can, like, see what's happening. I can just, like, feel the people. So I loved it so much. Okay, maybe this video won't be a vlog. I'm not sure what this video is, but I think I'll include an outro of the new dance I learned because I'm proud of it. So, all that to say, let yourself expand beyond the identities that you've previously created for yourself or have been handed down to you. And, you know, if you feel a little crumpled up inside this small box, let's just start busting the box open a little bit. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Okay, here we go. I just learned this 2 days ago. Don't judge me, it's my new hobby.